Welcome to the Deep Dive. You know, our world is changing at just an incredible pace.
It really is.
And nowhere is that more obvious than how technology is reshaping, well, everything. Even something as basic as understanding life itself. Today, we're taking a deep dive into one of the biggest forces behind that change, artificial intelligence, AI. Specifically, its huge impact on biology and healthcare.
A really profound impact.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We've gone through the sources you shared, and our mission today is to kind of cut through the noise, pull out the key insights.
Right.
And maybe uncover some surprising things about how AI is literally changing our health, our future. All tailored for you, our listener.
Exactly. And we'll trace AI's path, from the very first ideas right up to the really cutting-edge stuff happening now in medicine.
Okay.
And importantly, touch on the big challenges and ethical questions that come with it.
Definitely need to cover those.
Yeah.
So let's start at the beginning. The term artificial intelligence, and it
Yeah.
actually goes back to 1956, right?
Yeah.
John McCarthy.
That's the one, John McCarthy. He defined it pretty simply as the science and engineering of making intelligent machines.
That definition really kicked things off.
It did. Though even before 56, you had pioneers like Alan Turing thinking about machines that could learn.
The Turing test.
Exactly, the Turing test. A way to think about machine intelligence. But that Dartmouth workshop in 56, that was the real catalyst. McCarthy and others brought those early ideas together.
And those first AI systems, they were mostly based on rules, symbolic reasoning.
Very much so. Think of expert systems like Dendrol in the late 60s.
Right, interpreting chemical data.
Yeah, mass spectrometry data. And then MYCIN in the 70s for diagnosing bacterial infections, suggesting antibiotics.
Groundbreaking stuff for back then.
Absolutely. But they hit walls. These rule-based systems, they weren't great with uncertainty or learning new things from data easily.
Which led to the AI winter. Less funding, less interest for a while.
Precisely, a problematic period. But today's AI is, well, completely different. We usually talk about artificial narrow intelligence, ANI. That's AI good at specific tasks, like, say, driving a car or playing chess.
Right, specialized.
Exactly. And then you have the theoretical ideas, artificial general intelligence, AGI, and superintelligence, ASI.
But those are still theory.
At present, yes, they don't exist.
Yeah.
What we do have and use widely is narrow AI, and often that means machine learning.
Okay, yeah, this is where it gets really interesting for me. Machine learning, ML, that's a subset of AI.
It is, where algorithms learn patterns from data without being explicitly programmed for every single step.
So less hand-coding of rules.
Much less. Think supervised learning. You train it on labeled data, like showing it lots of pictures labeled cat or dog until it learns to classify them, or in biology, classifying protein sequences.
Okay. And unsupervised.
Unsupervised learning is where you give it unlabeled data and it finds patterns or clusters on its own, maybe identifying unusual patient groups in medical data, for instance.
Got it. And then there's deep learning, DL. That's a subset of ML.
Exactly. Deep learning uses artificial neural networks, ANNs. The idea is loosely inspired by the human brain, using layers of interconnected nodes to process information.
Layers.
Multiple hidden layers, yeah. The big advantage of DL over traditional ML, it often automatically extracts the important features from raw data.
So with ML, a human might need to tell it what features matter.
Often, yes. Feature engineering, it's called. DL does more of that heavy lifting itself, which is why it's so powerful for complex stuff like image recognition or natural language.
And it needs a lot of data.
A huge amount of data, typically, and more computing power.
Makes sense. And you mentioned different types of these networks.
Right, like feed-forward neural networks, data flows one way, good for classification, and recurrent neural networks, RNNs, which have loops, allowing them to process sequences and have a sort of memory.
Memory, like for predicting what comes next in a sequence.
Exactly. Useful for things like language or maybe predicting patient trajectories over time.
Okay, so we have this powerful toolbox. How is it actually changing things in biology and healthcare? Let's start with industrial biotech.
Yeah, it's making big waves there, boosting efficiency, driving innovation, even sustainability in making materials, chemicals, drugs.
How so? Give us some examples.
Well, think robotics.
No.
AI-powered robots doing repetitive lab tasks, pipetting, sample handling 24/7, super accurately, reduces errors, frees up scientists.
Like automation.
And natural language processing, NLP. Imagine researchers trying to keep up with the flood of scientific papers.
Impossible manually.
Right. NLP can sift through millions of documents, pull out relevant findings, identify connections. It's incredibly powerful.
Wow.
Plus, AI is optimizing supply chains for bioproducts, predicting demand, managing inventory better, finding the best transport route.
So it's not just the science, it's the whole process.
The whole pipeline. And interestingly, AI can sometimes de-skill parts of research, automating complex procedures that used to need years of hands-on experience.
Which could actually make science more accessible.
Potentially, yes. Broaden access.
Okay, let's talk drug discovery. That's always been this incredibly long, expensive process.
And AI is tackling that head-on, really cutting down the time, the cost, the sheer effort.
How specifically?
Well, one big area is virtual screening. AI models predict which potential drug molecules are likely to bind to a target protein.
So filtering millions down to a few good bets.
Exactly. Before you even start expensive lab experiments. Then there's de novo drug design.
Meaning designing new drugs from scratch.
Correct. Using generative AI models similar to those creating images or text to invent totally novel molecular structures optimized for a specific job.
Creating molecules humans might not even think of.
Potentially, yes. And AI is also great for drug repurposing.
Finding new uses for old drugs.
Right. Taking drugs already approved for one condition and using AI to scan vast data sets, clinical trials, literature to see if they might work for something else. Benevolent AI is known for doing this. Saves huge amounts of development time and money if it works.
Makes total sense. And you mentioned AlphaFold earlier.
Ah, yes. DeepMind's AlphaFold. Truly revolutionary. It predicts the 3D structure of proteins with incredible accuracy.
And knowing the shape is key for drugs.
Absolutely critical. Drugs usually work by fitting into a specific part of a protein, like a key in a lock. If you know the lock's shape precisely, you can design a much better key. AlphaFold achieves something like 95% accuracy for human proteins.
That's just a massive leap.
Game changer for discovery, no question.
And beyond finding drugs, does AI help with safety, making sure they don't cause problems?
It does. AI can analyze data to predict potential drug interactions.
Like knowing if taking two different meds together is dangerous.
Exactly. Like the known issue with simvastatin and fluconazole, AI can help flag those risks earlier. And NLP tools are even assisting with the regulatory process, like FDA approvals, by helping automate the review of trial data, finding inconsistencies, or flagging potential side effects mentioned in reports, making the safety review more efficient.
Okay, shifting gears to diagnostics, medical imaging. That seems like a prime area for AI.
Oh, definitely. Deep learning, especially convolutional neural networks, CNNs, they're designed for image analysis. They've transformed medical imaging.
So, helping radiologists and pathologists.
Significantly. AI can detect subtle patterns that might indicate disease. Think breast cancer in mammograms, colon cancer in CT scans, brain tumors in MRIs.
Finding things earlier or more accurately.
Both, potentially. And it's not just cancer. AI analyzing functional MRI, fMRI data, is showing promise for early detection of neurological conditions like Alzheimer's, schizophrenia, even autism, looking for subtle network changes.
That's incredible. What about pathology slides? Looking at tissue samples.
That's digital pathology. AI is automating the really time-consuming task of screening slides, like pap smears for cervical cancer.
Using whole slide imaging, WSI.
Right. Scanning the whole slide digitally, then AI analyzes the image. It can speed up diagnosis, improve consistency, and really help with large-scale screening programs.
So faster results, potentially wider screening.
That's the goal. Improving quality control, too.
Okay, we've talked data analysis, but what about AI, actually? Physically involved in healthcare.
Good point. Robotics is a big one. AI-assisted surgery.
Robots doing the surgery.
Not usually replacing the surgeon, but augmenting them. Offering enhanced precision, stability, better visualization, using 3D models built from patient scans, helping plan the surgery, too.
So a very sophisticated tool for the surgeon.
Exactly. And AI is used in rehabilitation robotics, guiding exercises, and even in patient assistance, things like the Mario robots you mentioned, designed to help with the emotional aspects of dementia care.
Addressing emotional needs. That's interesting.
It leads into personalized medicine, which is a huge area for AI.
Tailoring treatment to the individual.
Precisely. AI can analyze your specific genetic makeup, your lifestyle, your medical history, all of it, to predict risks and help design the best treatment plan just for you.
Examples.
Well, machine learning models using data from wearable sensors think smartwatches to predict blood sugar fluctuations in diabetics, maybe even help prevent highs or lows.
Proactive monitoring.
Yes. Or implanted devices like cardiomems for heart failure. It monitors pressure in the pulmonary artery, sends data daily.
So doctors get early warnings.
Exactly. AI analyzes that data stream to flag potential problems before the patient even feels symptoms. It's integrating AI with the Internet of Things, IoT, those connected devices.
And using predictive analytics for customized care.
Right, and combining it with things like blockchain or advanced cryptography for better data security and secure workflows.
Okay, so AI is getting deep into patient care. What about the really fundamental biology? Stem cells, tissue engineering.
Yeah, it's pushing frontiers there too.
Yeah.
In stem cell and regenerative medicine, machine learning helps analyze gene expression patterns to understand how stem cells behave or differentiate.
Okay.
There's even work like DeepNEU, using deep learning to model artificial stem cell systems, iPSCs, which are crucial for research without using embryonic cells.
And building actual tissues.
Yeah.
Tissue engineering.
AI is key there, helping design and manufacture tissues or even organ scaffolds for implantation, predicting how materials will behave, figuring out the best way to mix bioinks for 3D bioprinting.
Printing things like heart valves.
Exactly, or patches of artificial tissue. There's even talk of 4D bioprinting.
4D, what's a fourth dimension?
Time. Printing structures that can change shape or function after being printed, maybe in response to body temperature or other signals.
Wow. Okay, that's futuristic. What about managing all the biological data being generated? Bioinformatics.
Absolutely crucial role there. We have these enormous databases, NCBI Gene Expression Omnibus, the Cancer Genome Atlas, just vast amounts of data.
Right.
AI helps manage them, optimizing how data is stored, queried, making it faster and cheaper to find what you need, even automating database configuration.
So it makes these resources actually usable.
More usable, definitely. And that feeds into things like analyzing RNA sequencing data.
RNA-seq, getting a snapshot of all the RNA in a cell.
Exactly, a really detailed look at what genes are active. But it generates massive data sets. AI is essential for making sense of it all.
Finding patterns.
Finding regulatory elements in DNA, identifying genetic variations linked to disease SNPs, finding gene fusions in cancer. It's vital for precision medicine.
Connecting genetic details to treatments.
Yes. And that connects to toxicology, too.
How so? Predicting if something is harmful.
Predicting toxicity, yes, but also predicting how individuals might respond to a drug based on their genetics, helping optimize dosage.
Personalizing safety.
Right. And it's used in environmental toxicology, too, predicting how chemicals might affect ecosystems, like lead in soil or pesticides impacting bees.
Okay, one more area. Synthetic biology. Engineering life.
Yeah, a fascinating field. Designing and building new biological parts, devices, systems. AI is used here for things like designing genetic circuits.
Like biological computer programs.
In a way, yes. Also, improving tools like CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing for better precision, which is huge for developing new therapies or vaccines, and optimizing metabolic pathways in microbes to produce biofuels or chemicals more efficiently.
So really designing biology with AI's help.
Exactly. It's a powerful design partner.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly promising, almost revolutionary.
Yeah.
But there have to be challenges, right? Ethical issues.
Oh, absolutely. This raises some really important questions. A fundamental challenge, especially in medicine, is getting enough high-quality data.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Pretty much. You need large, well-curated data sets with long-term outcomes, especially for things like medical imaging. And just standardizing how data is collected and organized across different hospitals or countries is tough.
And privacy. That must be huge.
Massive. You've got regulations like GDPR in Europe and HIPAA in the US trying to protect health data. But it's complex. We've seen cases where genetic testing companies, for example, have faced scrutiny over how they handle or potentially sell customer data. That requires constant vigilance.
Right. And you mentioned earlier the black box problem, not knowing how the AI reached a decision.
Exactly. Especially with complex deep learning models, it can be really hard to trace the steps. Why did it flag this mammogram but not that one? That lack of transparency can be worrying in high-stakes areas like medicine.
Uncertainty. And what about bias in the algorithms?
A major concern. If the data used to train an AI reflects existing societal biases, the AI will learn and potentially amplify them.
Like the Amazon recruitment example you gave.
Precisely. Trained on historical data biased towards male hires, it ended up discriminating against female applicants. We have to be incredibly careful about the data we use and constantly audit algorithms for bias.
Okay, shifting to societal impact. Job displacement. Is AI going to take jobs?
It's a significant concern, definitely. There are predictions about automation impacting many fields, bookkeepers, some management roles.
And in healthcare, you mentioned robotic nurses, surgical robots.
Yeah, well, maybe not wholesale replacement soon. They could certainly change the roles of human surgeons and nurses. The idea is often augmentation, letting humans focus on the complex, empathetic tasks AI can't do, but the potential for role shifts is real.
And the risk of AI being misused?
Yeah.
That sounds serious.
It is. AI's ability to analyze data and personalize content is powerful, but it can be exploited. Think highly targeted disinformation campaigns.
Political manipulation.
There have certainly been concerns raised, bots spreading false narratives, influencing opinions. We saw discussions around this during the 2016 U.S. election, the Brexit vote. AI can make these campaigns much more sophisticated and harder to detect.
And deep fakes?
Deepfakes, yeah. Hyper-realistic fake videos or audio, the technology to convincingly fake someone's voice, for instance. Adobe showed software that could do it after listening for just 20 minutes or so.
It's unnerving.
It poses real threats for misinformation, fraud, manipulation.
So with all these capabilities and challenges, where does the human element fit in? What do we still do best?
That's the crucial question. While AI crushes us at raw computation and data sifting, human intelligence has unique strengths. Abstract thinking, genuine creativity, common sense reasoning, emotional depth, ethical judgment.
Things AI struggles with.
Profoundly struggles with, yes. Think about empathy, real understanding of context, making value-based decisions. AI simulates, but it doesn't feel or understand in the human sense.
And our ability to generalize, to learn from just a little information.
Exactly. Humans can learn a concept and apply it in totally new situations. We infer, we hypothesize, we handle ambiguity incredibly well based on limited data. AI is usually trained for specific tasks and struggles to transfer that learning effectively to unrelated areas. Our learning is flexible, adaptive.
Neuroplasticity.
That's a big part of it. Our brains constantly rewire and adapt. And emotional intelligence, EQ, is huge. Empathy, social skills, self-awareness. These are core to human interaction and decision-making.
Areas AI can't really replicate authentically.
Not authentically, no. The consensus in the sources seems to be that AI should complement these human strengths, not try to replace the irreplaceable human connection.
So the vision isn't human versus machine, but human plus machine.
That's the ideal, yes.
Yeah.
A collaborative future, complementarity. AI's processing power boosts our creativity. Its analysis sharpens our intuition. Its efficiency frees us up for deeper thinking, more complex problems, more compassionate care.
Using AI as an incredibly powerful tool.
The most powerful tool we've ever created, perhaps. But it requires mutual respect, constant dialogue about its use, and importantly, a commitment to lifelong learning, especially for professionals who will use these tools.
Adapting as the technology evolves.
Absolutely. We need transparency in how AI works, and we need to build and maintain trust. It's about augmenting human capabilities, enhancing what we do best.
So, wrapping this up, what's the big picture here?
Well, AI's impact on biology and healthcare is undeniably transformative. There's just immense potential to change how we diagnose illness, develop treatments, even understand the fundamentals of life itself.
It's reshaping our world.
It really is. Which leads to a final thought maybe for you to ponder.
Okay.
As AI gets better at predicting our health, designing our medicines, maybe even mimicking aspects of our own intelligence, what new ethical, maybe even philosophical questions does that raise about what it means to be human and how we relate to machines that are becoming, in their own way, intelligent?
That's a deep one. How our relationship with technology redefines us. Lots to think about there.
Definitely.
We really encourage you, our listener, to keep digging into these questions as AI continues to evolve. It's a conversation we all need to be part of.